Manchester City pull out a move for €100 millions. Real Madrid superstar. Real Madrid star Rodrygo goes will have to consider other possibilities if he is to get a big money move this summer, with Manchester City seemingly no longer an option. Pep Guardiola's side had been most heavily linked with Rodrygo, but it now lost Blancos, and the Brazilian will place their hopes of a move elsewhere. City were focused on bringing in Rodrygo as a replacement for Savinho this summer, with their own Brazilian winger keen on a move to Tottenham Hotspur. City had turned down a bid from Spurs last week, but now that move looks to be off, with consequences for a potential move for Rodrygo. Manchester City, to keep hold of Savinho, it seems Spurs are not willing to meet City's asking price, as Guillem Balak reports that City have decided that Savinho will not be going anywhere. As he notes, this ends Rodrygo's chances of joining the Premier League side this summer, as he would have been the replacement for the former Girona man. City were supposedly willing to meet Rodrygo's asking price, which was somewhere between €80 million and €100 million, and had already lined up a bid as soon as a deal was agreed for Savinho to leave. It was reported throughout that exits for Savinho, James McAtee and Jack Grealish were all necessities for a move for Rodrygo though, and that won't happen as things stand. Could Liverpool or Arsenal move for Rodrygo? The other two sides that have been most closely linked to Rodrygo are Liverpool and Arsenal. The former have their eyes on Rodrygo, but only as an alternative should their move for Alexander Isak fail. Similarly, Arsenal would need to sell players first, and would probably only move for him if a deal for Ibarrechias does not get done. Previously, the Gunners have inquired about a loan with an obligation to buy next summer to door open for Gunners to make Rodrygo move as Manchester City give up on deal. Mikel Arteta wants to sign another forward, but does the Brazilian fit the bill? The door has swung open for Arsenal to make a move for Rodrygo after Manchester City today decided Savinho's future. Tottenham opened surprise talks to sign Savinho earlier this month, and the player was subsequently left out of the matchday squad for City's Premier League opener away to Wolves. Standard Sport understands the Brazilian made 48 appearances in all competitions for City last season, was earmarked as a Tottenham target after Heung-min Son was sold to LAFC and James Maddison ruled out with injury. But City have now decided to keep the 21-year-old. According to reports from Guillem Balak, that decision has also seen Pep Guardiola's men drop their interest in Real Madrid forward Rodrygo, a move which Arsenal could benefit from. The Gunners are known to be keen on the lost Blancos forward and held talks regarding a potential transfer earlier this summer. Reports in Spanish outlet Cadena Ser report that Madrid have told the player he can leave this summer, with an asking price set at €90 million, £76.8 million. With City now out of the running, Arsenal could prove the most appealing destination for Rodrygo, who hit 6 goals and 5 assists in 30 La Liga outings last season. It remains unclear whether Arsenal will make a move, though. Amid reports, the club would sooner move for a left-footed forward or a natural left winger. Rodrygo prefers to play off the right and is right-footed. To complicate matters further for the Gunners, Liverpool are also weighing up a move for the player, and Rodrygo is thought to be keen on a move to Anfield. Thanks for watching. Stay for the next content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Newcastle players won't accept Alexander Isak back after Liverpool insult. Alexander Isak is likely to need to win back more than just Eddie Howe's approval should he return to the Newcastle United squad this season. Isak ranks as Newcastle's most expensive player of all time after arriving from Real Sociedad on a £60 million deal in 2022, but his time at St. James Park could be coming to an end. The Sweden international has made no secret of his desire to join Liverpool following an eye-watering bid from Anfield, which was swiftly rejected, and has now excluded himself from the squad for the start of the season. Football Insider understands that Isak will eventually get his dream Liverpool move, currently sitting at home while the Magpies attempt to find a replacement, but time is running out for the club to do so. João Pedro, Leon Delap, Mateus Cunha, Benjamin Sesko, and Hugo Ekitike have all been on the transfer list this summer. But if the unlikely event of Isak returning to the squad were to happen instead, Dion Dublin fears for his popularity amongst his teammates. Alexander Isak, unwelcome in Newcastle United dressing room. Speaking live on BBC's Football Focus, Dublin said, "I would find it difficult accepting Alexander Isak back into the dressing room. What he is saying is, I don't want to play with you lot because you're not as good as that lot." The 25-year-old is one of the most prolific goal scorers in Newcastle's history, notching 62 goals in his first 109 appearances. But Howe now faces an extremely difficult remaining few weeks of the transfer window. Football Insider understands that Newcastle blame Howe for the club's transfer failings thus far. But with Malik Theo and Aaron Ramsdale now through the doors, all that is left is a striker. Liverpool still after Eddie Howe's biggest star. Football Insider verdict. The Reds sealed a 4-2 win over Bournemouth in their Premier League opener on Friday, the 15th of August, but despite an onslaught of goals, it was clear that a striker is still on the list this summer. Ekitike has quickly become a favorite at Anfield, and so too has Florian Wirtz. And supporters are very aware that a new center-back is desperately needed after Jimmy Carragher slammed Ibrahima Konate's performance. Isak's future remains the major talking point at both Anfield and St. James Park. However, and it does not feel like it will go away until he signs across the dotted line for Arne Slot's team. Jon Wissa has also emerged as a surprise target for the Reds, and that would be another blow for the Magpies. But Slot is not messing around in the transfer window for the 2025-26 campaign. The whole Isak saga has been a massive surprise to much of the Premier League. But with news coming out of his contract, talks being shelved, some of his actions can be understood. Of course, supporters at St. James Park would love him to return for one more season, especially with Champions League football ahead of them, but nobody can predict how this ends. Thanks for watching. Stay for the next content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ruben Amorim argues two-man UTD stars in one moment can elevate entire stadium. He saw it firsthand versus Arsenal. Ruben Amorim singled out to Manchester United players for the most important thing that he could take away from the Premier League match against Arsenal. Manchester United finally returned to Premier League action for the first time since May, with the Red Devils finishing an abysmal 15th place in the 2024-25 campaign. The Red Devils faced a tough test in their start to the 2025-26 Premier League season, with United hosting Arsenal at Old Trafford on the opening weekend. United fell short to Arsenal on Sunday afternoon, and the Gunners inflicted a 1-0 defeat on Ruben Amorim's men. Despite a strong showing from the Red Devils, Riccardo Calafiori broke the deadlock in the first half for Arsenal and Mikel. Arteta's men maintained their lead to ensure they walked away with all 3 points. Ruben Amorim's immediate reaction to Man Utd's Premier League performance versus Arsenal at Old Trafford. Manchester United were dealt a major blow in the 13th minute after Riccardo Calafiori netted for Arsenal, with Alti Benara at fault for the first half opener. Alti Baindir palmed the ball into the path of Riccardo Calafiori after scrambling to clear a Declan Rice corner with the Arsenal defender heading from close range. Despite the early setback against the Gunners, United manager Amorim watched on from the Old Trafford sidelines as the Red Devils fought hard to find an equalizer. Speaking after United's 1-2 Premier League defeat, the 40-year-old former Sporting CP head coach argued that the Red Devils had come a long way since last season. "We were more aggressive than last year," he said, as per Manchester United's official website. "We sprint more. We were more brave. We let 1-against-1 in all of the game. We pressed high, and then with the ball, we have quality. Even when the stadium makes some sounds, we continue to play the way we play." Ruben Amorim singles out what Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo showed for Man Utd against Arsenal at Old Trafford. United summer signings Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo were both handed their Premier League debuts for the Red Devils in Sunday's 1-0 defeat to Arsenal. Both Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo started alongside Mason Mount in attack, and the trio were lively in their interactions with one another on the pitch. Ex-Brentford star Mbeumo and ex-Wolves ace Cunha played the full 90 minutes, and Amorim talked up both of their meaningful presences on the pitch at Old Trafford. "We lost fewer balls in the build-up compared to last year was where we struggled a lot," Amorim continued. "And then, the small things that we talk about at the beginning of this season, that players like Matheus Cunha, like Bryan Mbeumo, in one moment can elevate the stadium. So, I think the most important thing, we were not boring." United face Fulham on the 24th of June, 4:30 p.m. at Craven Cottage. Fabrizio's transfer latest, Tottenham and Arsenal interest, clear message, replacement search. The latest Tottenham and Arsenal transfer news, as there has been a lot of talk over the future of the Crystal Palace man. Fabrizio is one of the names on everyone's lips going into the final 2 weeks of the summer transfer window. The Crystal Palace star has been of interest to Arsenal throughout the summer. However, it now seems that Tottenham Hotspur have taken the lead in the race for the England international. Spurs are on the lookout for a replacement for attacking midfielder James Maddison, who is starting his recovery from a serious knee injury. He is expected to miss the majority of the 2025-26 season. As Spurs step up their interest in ES, there were some reports that he would be left out of the squad for Palace's games against Chelsea. That, however, wasn't the case. Here's the latest on the midfielder's future. Clear message sent. Despite the speculation over his future, Ez was named in the starting sheet for Palace's Premier League match against Chelsea on Sunday. Explaining the decision to Sky Sports before the match, Palace boss Oliver Glasner said, "I mentioned it in the press conference. Mark Gahey and Ebes trained well for the whole week. There's no reason not to start him. Good advice to all the children. Don't believe everything they're reading in the newspapers." EHS almost made a big impact in the first half of the game, putting a thunderbolt of a free kick past Robert Sanchez and into the back of the net to give Palace what they thought was a lead. However, the goal was ruled out after a VAR check with Mark Gahey, adjudged to have been too close to the Chelsea wall. Replacement search? Amid the talk over Eze's future, it seems that Palace are now looking for a replacement. On Saturday, it was claimed that the Eagles had made an approach to Leicester City over attacking midfielder Bilo El Khanous, who is high on their list. It has emerged on Sunday that Palace have also looking at Christos Tzolis from Club Brugge. Palace are said to have seen a bid rejected by the Belgian club, but are expected to go in with an improved offer. Release clause. Ez did have a release clause in his contract at Palace worth a reported £68 million. However, that clause expired on Friday night, meaning that it gives slightly more control to Palace. It is, however, claimed that Ez is still expected to leave Palace this summer, with The Athletic claiming that he has told the club of his wish to join Spurs before the deadline. Crystal Palace manager Oliver Glasner hit back at rumors Eberechi Ez would not face Chelsea on Sunday amid transfer interest and revealed the forward's release clause has expired. Tottenham are in discussions with Palace over a deal for ES as they look to add a new number 10 before the transfer deadline on September 1st. And there had initially been doubts over whether he would feature at Stamford Bridge, but Ez was named in Palace's starting lineup against Chelsea on the opening weekend of the Premier League and had a goal ruled out by an unusual law following a VAR check in the 0-0 draw at Stamford Bridge. Glasner pushed back against rumors that wouldn't feature, warning not to believe everything written online. He explained that if the negative reports about his players were true, they wouldn't be performing or showing the strong commitment that exists within the squad. He said Ez trained all week, is an important Crystal Palace player, and there was no reason not to select him. Glasner also confirmed that Eze's £68 million release clause has expired. So, with 2 weeks left in the window, any decision on his future rests with the club. Ez remains a top target for Spurs this summer, though no bid has been made and Palace value him at £70 million, with 2 years left on his deal. Ahead of Thursday's UEFA Conference League playoff against Fredrikstad, Glasner confirmed will train as normal this week and expects him to be involved in the first leg. Speaking at Stamford Bridge, Chris Sutton compared Ez's situation to Alexander Isak at Newcastle, noting the difference in professionalism. While Isak has stopped training after pushing for a move, Sutton praised Ez as a good type who continues to work hard. He said Oliver Glasner will want his best players available, and with Ez being central to Palace's success last season, their chances of getting a result at Chelsea improved with him in the starting lineup. Thanks for watching. Stay for the next content. Don't forget to like and subscribe.